Welcome everyone to our Bicep community call of January in 2025. This is our first call of the year, and we have a lot of topics today, so we'll be trying to get through everything as quickly as possible. So I'm going to skip through the slides that talk about communicating with the team. I think everyone who's here will probably know. If you have any questions, raise your hand or put them in chat. We have our entire team here. All right, so our ODOT 33 release has been released as of last week. We had a lot of bug fixes and some nice features, so I'll go through our main features that we included in the release. So the add resource input and we added the resource input and resource output utility types. This deprecates the existing resource utility type. The three utility types are pretty closely related, but they surface different property flags, so we decided to deprecate the original resource utility type. This had the flags originally defined in the RP types artifact. The new ones, resource input, strips out all write-only flags. That means that the template authors can access properties on a resource input typed parameter that would have previously raised an error. The resource output strips out all read-only flags. If you want a little more information on this, you can check out the release. There's the PR there, or you can ask Johnny, who is our engineer who worked on this. He can answer any questions in chat, or you could ask him directly. We exposed the fail function. This function takes a single string argument whose value is the message of the error that will be raised. So I put a little code sample here. Basically, if you can read the logic, I'll explain. The expression checks if the name property of storage account data is empty. So if it's not empty, it converts the name to lowercase. That's why it says to lower. If it is empty, it fails with the error message. No storage account name was provided at the end. So that's the new fail function. I think a lot of people had been excited about this, so we're glad to have it out. Our third big feature, we have now support for variables, objects, and arrays in extended Bicepparam files. We got a lot of feedback on this one, and our engineer Engin has been working on it. So thank you for the feedback. If you let us know that variables, objects, and arrays are important in the extended Bicepparam files, and we're working on moving the extended Bicepparam files to GA sometime either next release or the release after. So look out for that as well. We also have paste as Bicepparam. So thank you, Mikolai. If you want to present on that in a bit, let me explain the final update on the page. So portal export as Bicep, I know a lot of people have been asking about that. So there was a regression, so there was a rollback. Unfortunately, when we first released it last year, our newest ETA is early beginning of March, so look out for that. I don't know if it may be moved out. Unfortunately, there's been some problems with the portal team and the way that they released it, so I'll keep you guys updated. Our current goal is beginning of March. All right, sounds good. Mikolai, I think you wanted to present on paste as Bicepparam.
He might not be here.
Yeah, I don't see him here, unfortunately.
I think he accidentally joined the old community call link. I'm sending it to him right now.
Got it. Okay, sounds good.
I might move on to the next topic and then we can come back to Mikolai.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. I'll keep an eye on the participants list. All right, our first topic is Bicep Copilot. Gary, do you want to share your screen?
Sure. Yeah, let me share my screen. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Lee. I'm an engineer from the Azure deployments team. So yeah, today I'm excited to share with you a new tool we've been working on called Bicep Copilot. Bicep Copilot is an AI-powered tool that helps you to generate Bicep templates from the natural language prompts. It's been integrated with the Copilot on Azure, as you can see now. Yeah, so just let's take a quick look at how it works. So what you're actually seeing here is a release candidate version of the Azure portal. So the experience here is very similar to what you will see in the public version of the portal, which will be released very soon. So if you've used this before, the Copilot in Azure, the experience should be very familiar with you. So basically, you can ask any questions related to Azure, and the Copilot will provide you with the answer. So now with the Bicep Copilot integrated, let's see how it can help you with the Bicep template. So here I'm just going to type a kind of quite a simple question, how to use Bicep to with Azure Open AI service. So what's happening here is the Copilot is basically acting as like a orchestrate layer. So based on the question you ask, it will route to basically the best fitted plugin underneath. So in this case, it will be routing this question to the Bicep Copilot, where we provide this answer. So yeah, I'm going to just
Gary,
copy
can you zoom
Yep.
in a little bit?
Sure. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm just going to copy it here and just paste it here. So is the font okay here? I can do one more. Yeah, so as you can, I'm sorry.
That looks good, the size.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so as you can see, it's a pretty simple, pretty simple template here. It generated with like the OpenAI service. Yeah, like what I can tell is that I've deployed this before using the infra code. So this property is pretty critical because otherwise it gives you some error. So it's basically able to do that successfully. And then as you can see, there's no warning or errors for this template. Yeah, so now let's just take a look at another. I'm just going to kind of paste a little bit longer prompt this time as another example. So you can actually also give it a more detailed instruction on the exact, like for example, the size of the VM, any parameter, any like output value in here. So let me just ask that. Yeah, I want to mention that basically it's kind of like a chat experience. So even though I'm not showing here in this demo, you can basically ask any like follow-up question regarding the previous response or any question. Yeah, like because of that, it's kind of fully need the entire conversation history. So sometimes the following request may take a little bit longer. Okay, yeah, so as you can see, it's streaming out the result. Yeah, let me copy this again. Yeah, so this time it's printing a little bit more complicated template, and we can just do some quick checking. Yes, basically doing the right size, and then it's also creating not just the VM and also the other like needed resource, such as the virtual network or the public IP here. Yeah, again, it's pretty clean. Yeah, I think this one this time it may not. May have this like a tiny error. But overall, it's being able to kind of generate this. So yeah, so the thing is like now you may be wondering, right? So why do we want to use the Bicep Copilot when you can use the AI model directly? So for example, ChatGPT. So the answer is that the Bicep Copilot is designed to provide you with the most accurate and the relevant Bicep template. It's important. It's implemented as a typical the retrieval augmented generation flow. So we have multiple high quality sources as its knowledge base, such as the quick start template GitHub repo. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. And also we have the integration with the Azure resource schema, which have all the the type, all the type resource API version information. So we also built a set of the evaluation framework from the very beginning. So that is to ensure the quality we generated, right? So it's have as less a hallucination and less grammatically, basically it's as correct as possible. So what we can do here, I can show you, just do kind of a quick comparison. So these are some files I generated previously. Like this one, I'm using the same prompt, put that into ChatGPT, and then it's basically creating the correct resource, but however, some of the property are not correct, right? Like this one, it's basically giving a wrong property, and then also spit out some unused parameters. And just as another example, the Ubuntu Linux example. So for this one, it's able to basically do the generate the Bicep code correctly. However, if you notice that this version is using 2023 0501, which is a little bit older than what we are doing here. So the Copilot, we try to favor the later API version as possible. So basically this is just a quick show showing on a preview on this, and then we do have some of the next steps. So one thing we're also working on is to bring this into the VS Code. So we've been working with the VS Code team. It's basically the GitHub Copilot for Azure plugin to also integrate with basically on the VS Code side. And we've also been continuing to try to improve the quality of the Bicep code. So trying to integrate with all the the schema for all the Azure resources, just try to give the most accurate information on all the the property stuff. Another thing we're also planning to do is just to integrate with the Azure Verified module. So as many of you know, it's basically maintain the very high quality of the AVM modules, right? So we'd like to leverage that and then having the Copilot to give you the code that directly call those AVM modules. So in a way that you can basically achieve kind of a more complicated Bicep code. That really just concludes this quick preview of the Bicep Copilot. Thank you for listening in.
Gary,
Stephanie, how?
Quite a few questions in the chat.
Okay.
We have time for a couple of questions.
Okay. Let me.
I can read them out if you like.
Okay.
First question I see, I'm just going to go backwards. Can Azure Copilot provide Bicep that considers subscription limits or quotas? I'm assuming. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I'm just kind of scrolling. Can you repeat that? Sorry, Anthony.
No, you're okay. Can Azure Copilot provide Bicep that considers subscription limits or quotas?
Subscription limit quotas. I think this time we're really. I'm not sure that's more on the Bicep Copilot. I think
Yeah, I think
like
my assumption there is like because it's not actually utilizing any information about the customer subscription, it's I don't think it's going to do any specific generation that is like aware of it, the subscription that is being generated for. But I think it's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Okay,
There
thank
are
you.
lots.
Yeah, that was mine.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to think about for a revision, though. There are lots of questions about AVM, but I think Sydney's answered most of those questions.
Sydney, do you actually want to answer it during the call? Just in
Yeah.
case for the recording?
Yeah, so for AVM, currently this is not integrated into our knowledge base, but it is something that we have discussed and we are hoping to do in future iterations.
Awesome. Thanks, Sydney. All right, there are a lot more questions, but I was wondering if Gary, Sydney, if you guys can answer that in the chat so we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah, sure.
Great. And if there is any other place that people could ask questions, you can let them know as well. All right. We'll move on to our next topic, which is Whatif Updates. Dante, do you mind if I scroll through this?
Sure, I can just let you know when to change the slides.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dante Della Gasparina. I don't think I've been on this call before, but I work on deployment stacks, and I'm currently working on deployment stacks Whatif. And I'm kind of come to you with a little bit of an update and a chance to hear some feedback about a particular decision that we're looking to make. So if you want to change the slide. So this is about Whatif noise. And currently, I guess just to set the table, like to talk about what Whatif noise looks like in deployments. Whatif noise can be described as when the put differs from the get of the resource. So if you have resources or properties that are defined on the resource, like on the RP side, that are coming back on the get, and Whatif is incorrectly determining changes there, and I'll show an example after this. But yeah, this creates noise, and it gives false positive results of changes on Whatif for properties that are being added, or removed, or modified. If you want to switch the slide. So for example, I took these two resource types that this template's not super useful, but I've determined that these two resources have noise. I've deployed them, and then I've run Whatif directly after the deployment. And Whatif is detecting these changes on, most of these are like read-only properties, but things are coming back to us that Whatif is saying is going to change, and that can be hard to sift through and find your actual changes, when in reality, these properties would come up again if you were to deploy a second time. These are erroneously being detected as deletions when as they're only yeah. So we are, if you want to switch the slide. So to address this issue, we are hoping to introduce in deployment stacks Whatif a way to reduce this. The major constraint being we want to do this generically. It's a lot of effort for us as a team to maintain like a working knowledge of what properties on what resources are noisy, and we want to create a solution that we don't have to keep all of that metadata and maintain all of that metadata ourselves, because the RPs could be doing weird things, and we don't want to have to account for all of that every time things change. So do you want to change the slide? So we have two options currently that we are exploring for how to remove this noise. The first one closely follows current Whatif philosophy, and the second one redefines some key pieces of how what if works. And so we can start with option one. Could you switch the slide? So what option one would do is basically save the noise diff and use that to detect noise on subsequent what if calls. So on every deployment stack put, a deployment what if operation we run directly after the put, and we would save that and store it on the stack or somewhere that the stack could access. This would not be ever returned to the user. It would just be associated with the stack so that when we would make a what if call in the future, we could use the noise that we have saved and cancel out that use the resource changes that we've saved from the what if call that was made directly after the put, and use that to cancel out properties that we've determined as noisy properties when the what if is called in the future. And if you want to switch the slide. So here's an example of like what it would look like in terms of what we're saving. So it would basically be the complete deltas of the noisy properties. And you can kind of think about this as indirectly storing the output or the state of the world after we deploy the template, because the what if result is kind of giving us like the difference between what we deployed and now what the resource actually looks like, so we can understand what the state of the world is at that point and then use that to compare in the future, so that we know that these properties are noisy as they were noisy directly after the deployment. And you can change the slide. So yeah, if we run it with this, we can see that these properties are being removed as noise from what if. We've identified them, and this is the same as the same template that we were having issues with in a couple of slides ago that was showing up showing the read-only properties as noisy. You can change the slide. So option two is we can, it's a little bit different in that the algorithm would concern itself with only the properties that are explicitly defined by the user. So we would essentially be keeping track of the properties that were set on the template and only showing what if results for those properties. The added benefit of this, I guess, is that it's less work, as we're not having to run what if directly after the put, and we are also storing less information and having to do less comparison because we're just storing the properties that have been explicitly set. What this sort of does is change what if though to be more about comparing the input rather than comparing the output, because we're just kind of concerning ourselves with what the input properties are versus what actually the state of the resource is. So if you can change the slide. So this would be an example. It's much, and that you can ignore what the true. That's just kind of like, we can have a map of the property to some sort of metadata information, or maybe it's just a list of property names. But it's less information, and it's a way to selectively choose and remove the properties that aren't being explicitly set. You can switch the slide. So the major thing to consider here is that changes outside of the deployment stack will not inherently be picked up, leading to possibly unexpected reversions. And this is pretty huge. And so we feel like people will not maybe gravitate toward, or this will be probably the big thing to think about with the solution, though it is less upfront work with not having to do like a full what if on the put. But it also changes how you kind of think about what if and what it's comparing. Yeah, like I said, that this relies more on input, whereas current what if logic relies on like the output differences. And you can change the slide. Okay, so I kind of ran through that pretty fast. I don't know. We have a survey that will take feedback for this. Should we also do questions? I'm not sure how. There's a lot of pings, so I'm assuming there's a lot of questions.
There's a lot of questions, and I think we should have some of that dialogue before we ask for survey responses. Stephanie, if we have time.
Yes, we do have time.
Okay.
Do you want to field appropriate questions?
Yeah, let me try to field some for you. So there's a lot of questions about like state and the possibility of introducing state. Is option 1 the one that introduces state, or is option 2 the one that introduces state? Conceptually.
So I think they both are introducing state in some way because we're saving things on both of them. We're saving on option 1, we're saving the output. And option 2, we are saving the input.
And in both cases, we would put that extra information in deployment stacks. That's what we would be referencing.
Yeah.
And there's questions around, is this noise reduction bound to deployment stacks? And at least at the moment, the answer to that is yes, right?
Yeah.
And do we see any realistic paths to introducing this outside of deployment stacks, given we need that extra context to make the determination?
At this point, I don't see us. That's not on the timeline, I guess. That's not the priority.
It makes sense. I'm asking these questions just to make sure it's super clear for everybody listening.
Yeah.
Guys, Mikołaj, you have your hand up. Is it about what if?
Yeah, it's about what if. So on the option 2, when someone removes a property, so it will not be set in a subsequent deployment, would that be also covered by what if that the property is going to be some default value or something like that, or that I'm removing the property from the let's say state, because for like concerning the only outputs and this div, far as I know, Pulumi is not concerning the actual state that is on the Azure, and it can lead to reverse, but there is an option to update it and to read values from the Azure. But yeah, question is what about the removing property? Would that also be covered?
So in option 2, if you remove a property from the template, we're keeping track of the properties that were set on the last put. So if the property was set on the last put, then we're going to pick that property up as something to show the user. Does that make sense? Like it's kind of it's a combination of what's on the template and then what has been saved on the template since the last put.
Yeah, and also some of the what ifs right now produces what ifs like reference and like the arm body of some referencing some resources. Would that also be something that is covered? That those modules will be solved or
Sorry,
extracted?
could you explain that a little bit more?
Well, sometimes I see in Whatif something like reference and then a resource ID. Reference like the ARM function. This is also some kind of noise, or this is something that it's worth to be reported and it shouldn't be there.
A reference function coming back on the Whatif response. That's not necessarily covered by Whatif. I know we are doing some other work on short circuiting that might be more related to.
Yeah, but what is one of those options would like be easier to solve this?
Oh, easier to handle that?
Yeah.
Both of these options I think are outside of the scope of short circuiting. I don't think that either of them will be positively or negatively affected any differently. But if there's a reference function, I guess that both of these I don't think behave any differently for that sort of issue if we aren't able to evaluate a function. Though, yeah.
Hey, I'm going to move on to the next kind of area that's being discussed in chat. So there's a lot of discussion of like the introduction of state being a regression in one of the pros of Bicep, which we certainly understand. But this is, Johnny made this point clear. It's all going to be contained in deployment stacks. So you as an end user don't need to think about where the state lives or if the state is accurate or all those sorts of details. We will take care of that as part of the deployment stack. If we can come up with a way to solve it outside of deployment stacks, I think we're open to considering some of those options. But at the moment, stacks gives us some really reliable information where we can really tackle the noise problem. So that's why it's bound to deployment stacks. It's not as a way to move people to deployment stacks faster or anything like that. It's just the reality of the situation. So that's why that there's a dependency on deployment stacks, and we feel that solving the noise problem is really, really important in a holistic way, and this is our shortest path to getting there most effectively. So that's some of what went into the decision making. It's not to say that we got something wrong, but I wanted you all to understand where we're coming from on this one. Anyone have any particular questions about that? Esther, go ahead. You're on mute if you're
Yes. Yeah. I was going to say, I'll speak up. No, thanks for clarifying that, because I was kind of worried that we were gonna reduce the what I feel like is the definitely a pro to using Bicep, to always have just one state in Azure and have the option to have both an automated or template-based management of your Azure resources and still manual for those junior admins that need that visual confirmation and have challenges reading code. So having this option just within the deployment stack feels as enhancing the deployment stack architecture and mechanism. So to me, it feels much more as an auditing or change auditing feature set than just changing the whole Bicep concept of not having a state file. So thanks for explaining.
Cool. Thank you for jumping in, Esther. Appreciate it. Any other questions or concerns on kind of how we're thinking about things? Trying to keep an eye on the chat as well.
We are a little bit
Go ahead.
cut on
Yeah, keep
time.
going. I'll respond in chat.
Sounds good.
Dante, do you have the link to the survey?
Yeah. Should I post it in chat, Stephanie? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. I appreciate everyone listening in, and yeah, we're excited to continue on this and to keep updating you guys. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Great to have a lot of feedback. We have eyes on it. We're definitely going to relay the information and keep that in mind. We'll give an update hopefully next call, and we'll try to see what we can do. All right, our next topic is optional module names. Shenglong, I think you have some slides. Do you mind if I scroll through them?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Cool.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to share some quick updates on optional module names. So for those of you who are not aware of this feature, it's basically an experimental feature that has been introduced a while ago. So because we have a tight schedule today, I won't be able to show you a live demo, but with this feature enabled, what it allows you to do is that you can skip specifying module names. And this works for modules with or without a loop. So as you can see on the screenshot, I have two modules, and they don't have the name property set. So when you compile the Bicep template, the Bicep compiler will use the module symbolic name to generate a unique stream. For a module with the for loop, it will use the copy index. So this generated name is guaranteed to be unique within the whole deployment scope. So yeah, next slide, please. So this feature has been added, I think, almost a year ago, but we had some bugs that we were not able to fix. But recently we got the chance to prioritize them and got them fixed. So we're thinking about making this feature GA, hopefully next release. So if you haven't tried it, please give it a try, and please report any bugs before we GA the feature. So yeah, that's it. Stephanie, back to you.
All right, thanks, Shenglong. Really appreciate that. Okay, Bicep version pinning. Levy?
Hello, yeah, my name is Levi Moriuki, and relatively new team member, and I work on Azure deployments and Bicep. And today I'd like to talk to you about Bicep version pinning. So we are considering adding some new capability to Bicep to simplify version pinning configuration. And Bicep version pinning will essentially allow you to constrain or require a specific version of Bicep to be used for compilation of your Bicep files. And there are various benefits to this, but one of the main ones is that you get reproducibility. So you can be confident that regardless of which environment, whether it's locally or in your CI environment, you're getting the same validation and the same build output. And you no longer have to worry about the classic "it works on my machine" kind of problem. And it also helps prevent issues that might arise from pulling an update of Bicep that may be problematic. I think we've seen a few issues of that happening. So I will share my screen, and by the way, the main reason I'm talking about this is that we'd like to get some this general feedback on if you think this would be interesting to have in Bicep. So I'm gonna share my screen and demonstrate this a little bit. So here I have just a simple Bicep file and a Bicep config JSON. So what we're envisioning is that you'll be able to configure the version constraint in your Bicep config file. And one of the main reasons for this is that you'll be able to more easily fine-tune and kind of control the scope of where you want the version constraint to be applied. So in this case, this constraint only applies to this folder. You could have another bicep config with a version constraint, outside this folder, for example. And so this is one example where you would give a exact constraint. And so when Bicep looks at when Bicep compiles, let's say this main Bicep file, it'll first of all look at the appropriate config JSON and check whether the installed version matches the constraint that you have. And if so, it'll succeed. If not, it might throw an error, for example. So this is one syntax. We also look into a way to do version ranges. So you can do something like this. So in this case, this means any version greater than this or equal to this is acceptable. And this can be useful, for example, if you're a module author and you want to have your consumers have this version or greater installed for various reasons. For example, you might be taking advantage of a new feature that only exists from this version onwards. So you can use this as sort of a minimum version compatibility check. Also, you'll be able to do something like this. So this is just more advanced that you can specify a wider, a more specific range of versions. And also we're looking into the ability to do something like this, where you can use a wildcard syntax. And essentially like this one means that any patch version is acceptable as long as the major version is 0 and the minor version is 31. So that's in a nutshell, like what we're considering. And we'd like to just see if there's interest in this. If you think this would be an exciting feature that you would like to be added to Bicep and prioritized, we'd like to hear from you. So I pasted a message in the chat. If you think this is great, please give that a thumbs up. And in the meantime, one of the other things we're considering is actually, go ahead, Bernie.
I was just going to ask this. I think it's probably a fairly important question. It's just around how does that affect the actual installation of the Bicep tooling, both within VS Code, and I can see that obviously within CI pipelines as well, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, so that's one of the things we're considering is how we provide the best experience across the various tools for managing Bicep. And I will say, for Azure CLI, I'll give you that as an example. We're considering an option where the Azure CLI module knows how to interpret this constraint, and it's able to automatically download the latest version that satisfies that constraint. For example, if you had something like this and we had the latest version installed or available, it's like that, 99, then Azure CLI would be able to pull that down and use that as the version. In terms of VS Code, it's a little bit more tricky there because the VS Code language server is kind of coupled with the Bicep version. So it's a little bit more difficult to kind of be able to switch between versions with that. So that is something we're considering, how we can tackle that, but that's still in the works. And that's a good segue to because we were curious about how many of you are using the Azure CLI module versus the Bicep, if you're invoking the Bicep CLI directly. And actually also wanted to put that in the chat to get kind of give a thumbs up on the one you primarily use, because we'd like to kind of prioritize the best experience on the tool that most people use for now. And in the future, we might consider improving the experience for the Bicep CLI, for example. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Brett?
Hey, thank you. I understand with the current bicep config.json file, there's a limitation where it only reads the nearest copy of the file. And I wanted to find out, what if you're using the bicep config.json file higher up in your repo in order to set things like ACR repos, or which cloud you're deploying to, or linting rules that you want to exclude? How does that work with this file when it would essentially ignore the higher level bicep config file if this was placed into your particular deployment?
Yeah, so the mechanism of the bicep config JSON would remain the same. Like you said, this constraint would only apply to this specific folder. If you wanted to apply it to the entire project, then you would put that constraint at a higher level. And we will hopefully, when we're compiling the files, if there's any like conflicts, you'll be able to kind of you'll be able to get diagnostics for that. But yeah, we're not planning to kind of change how the semantics of bicep config work with this.
Right. So if you're using the bicep config file up higher in your tree for strategic reasons with your entire deployment, then this becomes a limitation because it would essentially exclude all those other settings, and it could actually easily break the deployment. Say if you're pointing to an ACR internally, or if you need to deploy to specific clouds. So I personally, love the idea of version pinning, but I think the mechanism that bicep config.json currently operates on requires an update in order to be able to perhaps merge the bicep configs in the tree. So just an observation and a suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that the merge semantics is something I think we've been looking at. I think Shenglong had been investigating that. So that is definitely something we would consider with this. Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you.
Awesome. I see that I got some thumbs up on
6.
Any other questions that anyone would like to bring up? Any comments? Cool. I also shared a survey on the chat. If you would like to provide more information about why you prefer like the Azure CLI or the Bicep CLI, and if you would like to just give us more context on that, please feel free. But otherwise, thanks for the feedback, and it's a great pleasure to talk to you. Over to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Levy. I also provided the link on the page right here just for people who are watching through the recording. Additionally, we have, so for the what if feedback, we also have a link to the survey. It's aka.ms/whatif-feedback. So it would be great to get some feedback. We see that there's a lot of people in chat. Also give us opinions on which option that you like. In the feedback, we explained what each option does. So yeah, if you guys can fill out the survey, that would be really awesome for us to be able to have everything logged somewhere, and we could consider all of your feedback. I know there's a lot of it. All right, so Dan, MS Graph extensibility.
Hey folks, Stephanie, can you move forward a slide, please? Perfect, thank you. So we just, our team wanted to give you a little bit of an update on where we're at with the Graph Bicep extension. So we recently, actually, I think yesterday, released a new set of an update to our types, which includes the user resource type. It's a read-only type, which allows you to go and fetch users by UPN, which is a lot friendlier than IDs or object IDs. So that's available now in the latest release. I will note that it's only available in that release and then moving forward. It's not available as a built-in type, and I've got more information on built-in types later as well. We've released a number of new samples, one that shows how you can use secretless apps, another that shows the use of the new users resource type in setting some group members, and finally a new sample that shows how to create a client app with OAuth2 scopes to call graph. That one is based on a number of pieces of feedback and issues that I've seen where folks have had confusion over setting required resource access on an application and thinking that is required in order to grant permissions to an app. These are slightly separate things, so the sample goes into that. And lastly, we are now available for use in US Gov and in China. Stephanie, can you just hit forward again? So coming back to dynamic types and built-in types, we're actually going to be retiring built-in type support for graph bicep types in the March bicep release. So this is kind of like an advance warning. If you're using built-in types with Microsoft Graph or Entra types, please migrate to dynamic types. Can you go forward again, please, Stephanie? And in terms of what's upcoming next, we will be completing our deployments to national clouds so that we'll be available in the Azure Secret and Top Secret clouds, and also the new relationship modeling that we had discussions about quite a while ago. We're hoping that will be available next month in our next release. So stay tuned for that. That's all I had. If you have any questions, please feel free to paste them into the chat, and I'll answer them offline. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, we had a lot of people asking about updates on MS Graph, so happy to give those updates here. All right, our last topic, AVM, Renee?
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. I just want to teaser the AVM community call, which will happen on the next week on Thursday at 9 a.m. Central European time. And yeah, we will talk about recent features that we added, upcoming features, like recently we had the big website update, which we would like to show you. And yeah, more to come as well. So we would be happy if you join us next week. That's it from my side. Thank you, Stephanie.
Great. Thanks, Renee. Cool. I think those are all the topics for today, which means that we have 6 minutes for questions. And I'm happy about that because I know there are a lot of questions here. Actually, before we head over to questions, Nikolai, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, it would be great if you could give a demo or explain Bicepparam.
Yeah, okay. So is my screen visible?
Yep, we can see it.
Yep, okay. So this is a new feature in the current 0.33 release. So you're familiar with Bicep, when you can take some JSON object and paste it into Bicep, and it's being converted to the Bicep. This wasn't working in Bicepparam. Right now it is, so we can just take an object, paste it, and it's being formatted into nice JSON is being formatted into the JSON. If you can, same functionality as you have with the regular Bicep file. Additionally, if you take entire Bicep, entire classic parameter file, and you paste it, into the Bicepparam file. It's being converted with all the biceps, all the params, and yep, and also if there is already a using directive, the using directive is not being added, is kept as it is. If you paste it again, you will have duplicates because we are not validating, we are not merging or something. If you're just pasting, I'm assuming you are not. We are assuming you know what you are doing. And yeah, that's all.
Thanks, Nikolai. Yeah, we have 4 more minutes for questions. If anyone wants to raise their hand, you can ask about anything, especially what we presented here today. Jeremy?
Yeah, actually, I just put it into the chat as well, but has there been any movement on bicep testing, the test framework and that stuff?
No, no movement. I think it's on our short list of like nice big new features that we would love to be able to prioritize, but we just haven't been able to do it up to this point. The next time we'll revisit prioritization is in March. So our next semester starts April 1st. No April Fools there. So we'll have an opportunity to have that discussion again. So if you haven't upvoted it and something that you're interested in, please let us know. And actually, by coincidence, Emily Redmond, who was our intern 2 summers ago, who worked on the test framework, is actually back on the team as of a couple weeks ago. So maybe she'll be able to find some time on the side to get that prioritized.
Glad to be back, everybody. Yes, funny timing on that. Glad to hear the project has remained on people's minds. Hopefully we can discuss it again soon.
Yeah, we do get asked about it, every couple weeks, to be honest. So it might be something that we need to take a fresh look at.
Cool. Any other questions? Anything in chat that we may have missed?
There's definitely something that we miss.
For sure. Let's see.
The private registry completions.
Stephen or PC, are you here and able to give an ETA for that?
Yeah, hi. So this is PC. I think we're getting very close to shipping the ACR private auto completion. It might be coming in pre-fall release.
Great. Thanks, PC. Anything else? Awesome. All right, so we've kept a pretty close eye on the chat, and I think we're going to make sure to review a lot of the feedback in our project meetings. We definitely want everything to be as good as possible for you guys, as much as we can. That's that's in our limitation, but we are hearing you. Please don't think that we aren't considering your feedback. So we'll give any updates that we can next month and the month after, with your feedback in mind. And yeah, thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate everyone so active in chat. We really love that. Thanks everyone. See you all next month.
Thank you.